Hello and welcome to the We're from the Valley podcast. On today's episode, I have the privilege of introducing my good friend, guitarist, vocalist, songwriter, businessman, scholar, and finance guru, the very talented JJ Juarez. JJ, thank you so much for being here, dude.
What's up? Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
I missed a couple, I'm sure. There's more to it, but I was like, then he's going to get a big head, and I don't want him to think he's,
never. I would never.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's probably a lot of stuff that I missed, but I wanted people to know a little bit about who you are and your background.
That. Yeah.
But dude, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
For people who don't know who you are, give us a little bit about your background. How did we meet and things like that?
Yeah. So I grew up in Reynosa, and I actually would cross every day to go to school here. My dad lived over there. My mom was over here. So I was pretty much back and forth my whole life. And I went to high school at Memorial, which is where we met. Mm-hmm. I was a junior in 2006. Right, it was your freshman year.
My freshman year of high school, yes.
I was thinking about that on the way over here, and I was like, that's like 16 years.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday, right? 16 freaking years, dude.
That I've known you. I met you 16 years ago. I mean, almost to the day, right? Like next month, right? Is August, like school year starts. And we met through Dexter.
Through Dex, yes.
Through that, we were introduced.
You were playing in the Final Stretch at the time. This super good band.
Thank you.
And we had our own little band, and we were like, dude, we want to be a part of the music scene. Yeah. And when we met you guys were very involved in the music scene.
Yeah, but at that point, I had been playing shows for 3 years. I think, going on 4. I think it'd been a while. It'd been a while already, and I remember, I think we made the introduction to Good Bar.
Yes.
You guys played some Good Bar shows with us at STC.
Our very first show was at the Incubator with you guys.
Oh,
and
man.
We had been wanting to play the Incubator, and
yeah.
We were just like, dude, what's our in? And that's when you connected us to Good Bar, which super cool guys. Yeah. Sam and Patrick.
Yeah.
Such nice guys. Shout out to them.
Oh my gosh.
Patrick, we talked about how Patrick's still doing shows to this day.
Yeah, Patrick is still amazing. Oh my God. He's doing awesome things.
But that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
And I remember you guys had just released the promos where you were at the Zone. Was it the Zone?
Yes, with the mini golf, man.
Those were sick.
Oh my God,
those were sick.
That was we were just about to release the EP.
Yeah,
it was like right before. Man, I forgot about that.
Dude, those were good times.
Is that still open?
I don't know. The Zone?
Yeah, no way. That became it. I feel like it changed. Like it used to be Montasia back in the 90s.
Was it also Mr. Funds or no?
No, that was different.
That
Mr. Funds was off of somewhere out in Mission. Yeah, Mr. Funds. That was so cool. There was nothing special about it, but that's what made it so cool. You see what I mean? Like just that sheer simplicity of like a potato sack going down a slide in a potato sack.
Dude, yes. Holy crap. It's
like your business model is like you became super successful. You loved it, man. Yeah, a potato sack going down a slide.
If the Zone is still around.
No, I don't think so, man. It's right next to that.
Not.
It's like a Dr. Pepper factory. It's like a Coke factory, right off 23rd and the Expressway.
I thought it was further down.
A little further down.
I can't even remember, dude.
But yeah, we took those promos, man. We were. You know what's so funny? We were doing those promos. We were about to play the EP release show.
Yeah.
This was April 2008, and it was during prom night. So I didn't go. This was my senior year in high school. I didn't go, and I remember getting voted most likely to become a rock star.
Dude.
And I wasn't there because I was playing the EP release show.
It's fitting.
It's very fitting. But man, that's
Rockstar, not going to the prom where you were voted most likely to be a rock star.
Because I was performing, awesome. That was 14 and a half years ago.
Golly. Wow.
14 and a half, man. I mean, in the blink of an eye, you know.
Was that show at STC?
That was STC.
The STC shows were fucking epic.
They were phenomenal, man.
Like, seriously.
The sound was so good. Pete, DDS Productions, shout out back in the day. DDS Productions was holding it down.
When that place would
man.
get packed, there was an energy.
Yeah.
There really was.
Big time. The room was perfect. This, like, the size, the sound, the acoustics in there. Don't Get Emo was the one. They were the ones throwing all the shows there.
Yeah.
I think they had a connection with the school, which is how they were able to, book all those shows. It was
such a great venue.
It was good. And, something interesting that it got brought up later, but like I remember parents being so weird about VFW shows back in the day.
Mine included.
Exactly. And I remember because like my dad would go to our shows, right? He loved it. Like he loved going to our shows. And I remember him telling me, oh, is this one is it going to be at STC? Is it going to be at STC? Because he liked that it was like, it felt safer.
That's awesome.
It was cleaner, right? And there was, again, there was this sort of like preconception about VFW, right? That it was
absolutely. I guarantee you that my dad was much more at peace with me being at STC than at the VFW.
It was odd because it was the same people. But it was just, I don't know if it was because like it was at a school or if it was like newer. I will say I do feel like there was maybe more security.
Sure. I mean,
not that
it's
we
the
needed
difference
it,
of one is a school, higher education. The other is a bar.
Yeah.
And you come out smelling like smoke because back then.
Yeah. You could smoke inside.
Yeah.
You could smoke inside the VFW. Oh, God, that's crazy. Man, I wasn't back. Wow. Actually, back to your point. So I started playing shows when I was 13 going on 14. And so by the time I was legally able to drink, I had been playing shows for like 7 years.
I thought I was young. I was 15 when we first started playing. But dude, this was with TFS, Final Stretch?
Yeah.
Damn,
and then Madur.
So
and then Madur.
Sure.
Yeah.
But when you were 13, 14.
That was TFS. Because TFS started
it was all the original members, Matt, Hector, Jerry?
So before that, it was just a drummer and I. And we started out as a Blink-182 cover band.
No,
because that's what we wanted to do.
Okay.
Like that's all I wanted to do, right? Like, I feel like
that's badass,
dude. It's so funny because, like, with the goals started changing, and I feel like I got more and more ambitious, like musically. Mm-hmm. So first it was, oh, I want to learn how to play guitar, and then it was, oh, I want to learn how to like play Blink-182 songs. And then it's like, oh, well, now I want to play them live. And then it was, oh, well, now let's start writing our own music. And then it was like, oh, let's start playing shows, right? And then it was, oh, let's start recording, right? And then it just kept going. But it was just a drummer and I, my friend Maudi, and he saw Matt perform at a Battle of the Bands at The Vibe.
What place was that?
Which was later turned into XS next to HEB on Fern. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. I remember XS.
Remember that church?
Yeah.
So that was called The Vibe. They used to throw shows there.
Wow.
Maudi went to a show there and he was like, dude, I saw this guy. They did all these like Census Fail, Taking Back Sunday
So he was
covers.
already playing with another like Screamo style
band? Yeah.
Okay.
Matt was already in another band and we basically recruited him. And then we got Jerry, who I met through another friend from Reynosa. Mm-hmm. He was awesome. He was into the same music, super good bass player. And then Maudi quit shortly after. And Jerry's like, hey, my friend Hector Leal, like plays drums.
The legend.
The legend. Shout out to Hector Leal.
Hector Leal, bro. He was just on fucking Franco Escamilla 2 nights ago.
Was he?
Yes.
That's all, dude. I'm not surprised. Like,
he's fucking killing it still to this day.
So it's so funny you bring him up, man. Like, people ask like, what the hell happened? And my answer's the same. He was so early onto the vlog sort of YouTuber content thing. He started doing that in like 07, 08.
Yeah. He was like killing it at that time.
Man. And then it became like later it was like super saturated, but I remember him, he had already been doing that for a while, and he just like, he legitimately got famous. He like co-hosted like Latino America MTV Awards.
Yeah. He's
it's like crazy.
So well known over there. And I mean, it's crazy to think how, like you said, he was like almost like a pioneer, very early. He was such a talent for these things.
Yes, he is.
And it's crazy to see what that was. You said 07, 08, 2010, huge. And we're 2022, and he's still doing some amazing things.
Dude, it's
I know
crazy.
he started doing, I think, streaming his video games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The Twitch.
And he's, I mean, he has an audience, which is awesome.
Super crazy, man.
It's just fucking. So yeah, you guys got connected with Hector.
So he joined, and then that's basically what became the band. Was
Arriba el Norte, chingado.
That's right. The famous tagline.
Yeah.
It was Matt, Jerry, Hector, and I. And I think what ended up working so well was we all had our roles in the band, right? So Hector was always super good with design, the graphics, the marketing, the this and the posts and the HTML on the MySpace and the layouts and all, he took care of that. Matt was, in my opinion, just such a phenomenal performer.
He really was. He's a great frontman.
Stage, just such a phenomenal frontman.
Yeah.
Insanely charismatic. And Jerry and I were all business, and we're, 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
And we're talking about how, like, we're going to fund the EP and we're going to sell the merch and we're going to reinvest that money into the recording, and we were just so on top of like the booking and like, well, what do you think? And it's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And, oh, well, this is too expensive. Like making those kinds of decisions, right?
So nothing's changed. You and Jerry are still businessmen you were back then.
Pretty much, man. I was
that's fucking awesome.
A 32-year-old, inside the body of a 16,
playing Blink-182.
Playing Blink-182 songs, man. It's I feel like you could probably see it early on, just being that motivated, having a goal, reaching it, achieving it, and then creating more and advancing and wanting to improve. Like that's very difficult, I feel, for people that age, or it's not kids, children that age, right? To have those ambitions, right? And don't get me wrong. You have the 16-year-old that knows that is going to Harvard and is, they knew that they were going to be a congressperson when they were, 12 years old. But having that, like, I feel like it's almost a natural skill to organize and put something together and create something.
Yeah. A natural skill, but also something that you refine and you develop and you learn about. I'm sure what you know now, you're like, dude, I could have done things way different, but you were 16. You were 16 years old.
All the time. I think about it all the time. And yet I would do nothing different, because when you're that young, that's your world. Right. And there's nothing beyond that. Like, you can't see beyond like what's just in front of you.
And nobody comes in with a freaking instruction manual and like, hey, this is how to fucking have a successful band at 16.
Nobody. Yeah. And that's the thing. Oh man, that's such a good point, because you're kind of learning as you're doing it. Right. And you learn as you go. And that's kind of almost the beautiful part of it. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
The hardest part has been, it's always been not just a high risk, but a lot of work and low reward,
Yeah.
That's, I feel, where a lot of artists, a lot of people that create sort of become conflicted, right? It's like, well, why am I doing this why am I putting so much effort and like I'm getting barely anything in return? But it's that's sort of what keeps you going, right? That little sort of satisfaction that you get is enough to patch up, whatever it is you might be like seeking.
Yeah. That's so true, man. That's amazing. I mean, I have great memories of watching the final stretch.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Just getting to be in the crowd, like at the STC shows, at the VFW, the incubator, and it's such an intimate space, right? I mean, it's just so fun. So you did final stretch for a while.
Yeah.
Tell us about the transition into Madur, because you guys did some amazing things in Madur as well.
Oh, thank you. That was so much fun. That was probably one of the best times in my life, because I was in college. We were playing in Madur. So I don't want to say it was almost an accident, but I actually ended up joining Madur because of the Requested. So the Requested's original lead guitarist, Rigo, quit. And they asked Adam, who at the time was playing guitar in Madur, to join. And he quit Madur, joined the Requested. And then by this time, TFS was already going to break up. Jerry had switched to pre-med. He got super busy with a bunch of school and personal stuff. Hector was starting college as well. Matt was moving to Austin. And we were just like, okay, I mean, this is going to be like, we're not going to be able to make this work. So we had our last show booked with Taking Back Sunday. It was opening up for Taking Back Sunday at the Las Palmas racetrack in Mission. It was like 30 degrees. So we already knew that was going to be our last show. We had already talked about it. We had been rehearsing. And yeah, Madur needed a guitar player. I remember being at Starbucks, running into Joey, and he was telling me. And then we just kind of hit it off. I mean, I already knew him from years back. And I just started jamming with them. And then I just joined the band. TFS broke up. I joined Madur because Adam had left. And I think the most important thing there was I was nowhere near ready to stop playing in a band, because the final stretch had just released the EP. We were playing a ton of shows. I feel like the final stretch was barely gaining traction. After 4+ almost 5 years, I feel like we were barely gaining traction, and the band broke up. So I was like nowhere near ready. It's funny, I spoke to Hector about it a while ago. I mean, this was forever ago. And he was saying, like, I remember him, like, word for word was, nunca estuviste listo para dejar el escenario. Right? And
you were never ready to leave the stage.
Exactly. And I was like, no, man. And
you were barely scratching the surface.
Barely scratching the surface as to what that was. Yeah. And I joined Madur, and that was so cool because everything, like, everyone worked so hard, and I just felt like all I needed to do was play guitar. And that was all I wanted, right? I just wanted to play guitar and play with my pedals on stage. And that's what I did for, those 3 years that I was with them. With the final stretch, it was hard because, I started the band, and it's sort of, that burden was on me, right? And even though everyone had their role, like, it was a lot of work. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize every time the final stretch played, we would go to Reynosa to pick up Hector and cross the bridge.
I remember you telling me that. Oh, I'm going to go pick up Hector in Reynosa. I'll be back at the show by, this time.
Yeah, 8, 9, or whatever. Or we're going to be a little late. Or, yeah, man. Like, people didn't realize, like, we had to be crossing consistently to make
there was
it
no
happen.
sentry back then.
There was no
you
sentry.
Literally had to do the line.
Be in line for either, you didn't know, right? It could have been a 20-minute thing or a 2.5-hour endeavor. Wow. So in Madur, it was different because Joey took care of all the booking, and, Jack was like just a phenomenal songwriter, man, to this day. Joe was doing all the graphic design. Ruben was just a phenomenal drummer, a human metronome to this day. Just such an amazing drummer, and it was so cool to just be able to show up and just play guitar.
Hold that thought. I forgot to grab the charger for my laptop. It's about to die.
Oh, so. Got it. Okay.
All right, thank you guys for your patience. Go ahead, pick up where you left off.
Thank you. So yeah, there was. It was so much fun. I was still very young. We were playing shows out of town consistently with Madur. I think that was the big game changer for me. Going from Final Stretch to Madur was we were basically gone every single weekend, playing shows out of town. The band was definitely a lot more serious about trying to, find a label or go on a tour, like a legitimate tour and stuff like that. So we did gain some traction. Like I remember speaking with Fueled by Ramen, like briefly. We were playing at the White Rabbit, like consistently in San Antonio. And I remember that's how we made like a Hot Topic connection.
That's right.
One of their managers like loved us.
There was shows at Hot Topic.
There were shows at Hot Topic. For those of you who don't remember, there and I'm talking full band, PA system, drums, guitars. There were full shows at Hot Topic, and she's like, "Oh, we're starting this initiative with like supporting local music. We're gonna have local bands play in stores. Like, you should do this, dude." We ended up playing like Hot Topics, several in San Antonio, Brownsville, Harlingen,
so
McAllen.
Awesome.
Like, it was so bizarre. And she was like, I remember at one point they had like a corporate regional meeting of all the managers, and we performed for them at like their offices in like San Antonio. It was like at an office building. Like we played in like this like basement sort of thing. It was the weirdest thing, man. And because we were trying to put ourselves out there, basically the whole goal of this, to sort of just summarize it, was the whole local music thing. At that time, what Hot Topic was doing was they were engaging local bands and basically saying, hey, we'll sell your CD. Now I'm really showing my age. When you could, still print and sell CDs, we'll sell your EPs, let's call it, in the store. If you hit a certain threshold, we'll put it statewide. And then if you hit a certain threshold, we'll do it nationwide. We're like, dude, that's super cool. I feel like we were one of the first to do that. And our contact there basically said, look, like, we're in touch with Mike McDougall. Mike McDougall was the corporate music buyer at Hot Topic. So he was the person that would basically say, okay, we're going to buy X amount of units of the new Silverstein CD, or we're going to buy X amount of units of the new, whatever band, right? So like, I remember we got a contract and we had it reviewed. I'm 19 years old, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this isn't a label, but like, this is, I feel, a really good start, right? And this could really become something. Our trailer got stolen, like right around the time this was happening. Luckily, I was able to get my equipment out. I think like we had like half of our stuff in there. So it wasn't everything got stolen. And I'm like, God, man, like this is, I think that was the first time I realized. It might have taken me a while. In retrospect, I probably realized it early on because I was 19. How just not necessarily volatile, but how just how frail the band is and the industry, and like this, nothing is guaranteed. This could completely fail, right? This is why I need to keep going to school. And after that, we just kind of lost the energy and passion for it. We kept going. We were still writing. We were still playing a ton of shows. I'm sure I'm leaving out a bunch of information, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was like, that was sort of the big deal breaker, because that trailer was like, we could go anywhere, right? I mean, you just hitch it and you're good. So that was sort of like our ticket to get out of the valley, like at any given point in time. And we just sort of lost it. And then by then, I had just finished my sophomore year at RGV. Back then UTPA. Back then UTPA. And I was like, man, I got to figure out something. Like, I got to do an internship or focus on my grades. I mean, they were never terrible. So man, it was, but at the same time, I wasn't ready to leave that stage. So I basically said, I want to keep doing music, but I have to do it at my own pace. And I said, what is, like, throughout the two bands that I've been in and all these years, like, what's always been sort of the constraining factor? And it's always been the time commitment for everyone. Like, you can't commit to, like, practice twice a week and playing shows every weekend, and people have jobs, people have families, people are in school. I was the only one in school at that time, and it was the time commitment. So I said, okay, how do I fix that problem? I still want to play music. I'm writing my own songs. And I said, well, what if I just reach out to friends that I've always wanted to write music with, basically say, hey, I already wrote the songs. I will fund the recording. Just show up and record these drums, or write the bass parts, or help me write some leads. And it basically turned out to be a pretty proven business model, because it's essentially how I started the writing season. And I said, every time I go record, every time I go write music, I'm just going to reach out to buddies who are available at that time. And it's perfect because the commitment level is so low. And I'm doing everything. I'm laying out all the foundation, right? There's no expense to you or anybody involved. I'm taking care of it. I love you. You love me. We're friends. We've been playing music forever in different bands. Just help me do this, right?
Yeah.
So every time we recorded an EP, it was with different friends and different people.
Dude, that's amazing. And we were just talking yesterday that last year you hit your 10-year anniversary.
10 years.
Which is incredible that you've been able to have this band with different band members.
Yeah.
And you're all kind of like in a long distance relationship with each other.
Yeah,
right? Because you've been here, you've been in Houston.
Yeah.
And then some of them have been in Austin. It's crazy how that happens.
Dude, it is pretty wild, because I'm in Houston, Gilbert and OJ are in Austin, and then Eric is still down here in McAllen. So we meet up once a month to write and rehearse in Austin. Eric will drive from McAllen. I will drive from Houston. We meet there. It's the most central. It makes most sense. And again, it's only once a month.
I was telling you yesterday, it was so funny because I was telling you, dude, I have friends here locally in McAllen that I don't see that often. You guys are in completely different cities and are still making the band happen, which is amazing.
Oh man, it's
and
wild.
So obviously it takes a certain amount of commitment.
Yeah.
I was telling you also, dude, that's a lot of work.
It is.
You're coming in from Houston and then you're practicing for however many hours.
All day.
And you're working full time throughout the week.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
I'm sure you're having fun, but it's got to be a lot.
No, for sure. And I feel like that's the thing. And every time we get together, it's like, God, I was looking forward to this like all week. I was looking forward to this all month. Like I couldn't wait to like get together, right? And like fuck around and, do whatever, dude. There's times where we don't get anything done, and we never feel like it's time wasted.
Absolutely not.
Ever.
You need it, dude.
No,
I mean,
like
you're working in the corporate world, and so I'm sure throughout the week you're like, dude, I just need to fucking
disconnect for a day, a month, like once a month. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, that's all it takes. It's just one day out of the month. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
If it was every other weekend, like, I mean, that could be, that's a lot tougher. If it was I don't think we could do every weekend, but it's the time commitment. So learning how to manage that, right? We all have graduate degrees. We all work full time. We all have personal life. Like, we all have stuff going on. Again, how do you manage? It's the time commitment. I identified that issue 12 years ago when I was in Madur, or when I left Madur, and it's still true. That's what it is. Just one day, one day out of the month, and let's just make it happen. So 10 years. You're right. December 2021 was 10 years since our debut show.
Yeah.
At Cine. That was in 2011. And technically, I did start the band 12 years ago. In August, next month, it'll be 12 years.
That's crazy,
since I started it. Yeah.
I got to be there. I got to be at your show last year, the 10 year, which was incredible. And we were talking yesterday a little bit about like what in the world fuels you to keep going, right? Because you were like, dude, like it seems like everyone is still so excited that you're still involved in the music scene, and we were talking about how, dude, nostalgia is a fucking powerful thing.
It really is,
right? Because you mentioned that you kind of wanted to recreate the world that we were living in back then, and we talk about how people are like, dude, stop living in the past, or romanticize the past, and we're like, you know what? Fuck no. Like,
embrace it.
Thanks to your love of that era.
Yeah.
You holding on to that, you've been able to create so many amazing things, all of these amazing songs that we can still appreciate today, right? And it reminds us of that time. You talked a little bit about how it was B. Lewis who showed up at this show.
Ambellina, man.
Ambellina,
oh my gosh.
Dude, they were incredible.
The most phenomenal band from that era, when we were sort of, being raised in the scene. And he showed up to one of our shows at Yerberia Cultura, and we were just catching up, man. And I hadn't seen him. This was back in 2018, 2019. I hadn't seen him since 2007.
Damn.
Because they were a bit older. They were I think 3 years older than we were.
When I started going to shows, they were well established in the scene, and then they were kind of already making their way out.
Exactly. And they all left for college, right? And I feel like that was what happened. Like the band, like Braver Madison, Ambellina, A Better Transit, Star-Crossed Romance, like all those bands, right? That, like, to me were
Astrophics.
It's
coming back to me.
Yes. So they all left for college, and that's basically what stopped, right? So I hadn't seen B. Lewis since like 2000. I'm not kidding. Since like 2008.
Wow.
2000. I hadn't seen him in 10 years, and he was just saying, he's like, this is just like borderline impressive. You're still doing this. Nobody, like, he was like, think about like from when we started back in like 04, 05 to now, like, man, you're still here. And I said, and I'm never gonna leave. You know, I like
That's awesome.
It fuels me, man.
Yeah.
And that whole nostalgia thing, people first, the writing season is a passion project. I think that's very obvious. I don't think a lot of people know that, or it might not be as obvious to other people. It's a passion project. And I never really intended it to be a band that we tour and play gigs consistently and do all these things at all. It was never intended. It's never been that way. We've been a band for 12 years and we've played a total of like 11 shows, maybe. Official, probably just 10 shows. So it's a passion project, and it's a love letter to all of those bands that I grew up just worshiping and just loving, like changed my life. It's a love letter to that Drive Thru Records era, to that Vagrant Records, you know, Militia Group, God, like all of those labels. And to me, it's always been more about not replicating a sound and not replicating a tone or style or genre. It's about replicating a point in time. How does, like when you think about, right, like the 80s, you hear something, you hear synths and reverb, right? And you see like the fashion, right? And when you think the 70s, you can hear it, right? And you can see it. So to me, it was like my adolescence, my, you know, formative years, you know, middle school, high school, you know, early 2000s to mid 2000s. What does that sound like? And I think that's been the biggest challenge, is how do you replicate a point in time? I mean, that's a pretty abstract thing. That era, you know, how do you replicate? What does that sound like to you? Or what does that look like, right? I think people like share memes and they see like scene people, and it's like, oh, when it's 2008 and you're getting ready to, you know, go to whatever.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, well, what does 2003 sound like? Or what is 2004, right? And a lot of our friends and a lot of people we know, like, will tell me, and they'll tell us, like, dude, I hear your band and it just takes me back, right? Never really pinpoint like, oh, it sounds exactly, I mean, yeah, we pretty much wear influences on our sleeve, right? Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, it sounds like early November, or, you know, Saves the Day, like, you know, stuff like that, but like Jimmy Eat World. But it's like, oh, it takes me back to that era. But they never really pinpoint like a certain band or tone or style. It's like it just sounds like that time, and I'm like, I think I succeeded.
I mean, it's like a culmination of all of those bands that you loved. And so, dude, what's amazing about that era, that time in the local music scene, was for those that maybe never got a chance to experience it, the way that I can explain it was the diversity was amazing and the unity was incredible.
It really was.
In the same show, like the same night, God, you guys would play with the final stretch.
Yeah.
And then you'd have fucking Lay in Ruins finish the night.
It was incredible.
You have this pop punk, what would you call yourself? Pop punk,
pop rock,
upbeat pop rock band with very, very catchy melody.
Yeah.
And then you have the heaviest.
It was so cool. Was that a Valley thing?
I don't know, because I don't know what music scenes were like in other cities.
What were local shows? Yeah.
But it certainly describes that time where there was so much diversity. But dude, we just ran into Nick yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, and it's incredible to see how different the genres were and how close and unified we all were.
That, you bring up a really good point, and the people that were behind that were very important. Shout out to Adam Valley.
Adam Valley.
Adam
dude. VTHC. Valley, Texas Hardcore.
I remember telling him there was like in the final stretch we had like a dry spell where we just like weren't getting shows. We weren't getting booked. I think that maybe we had like overplayed or we had been playing too much, and it was like, anyways, I remember telling him like, man, we're so like unlucky, like we can't like get these shows. Adam Valley would text me every weekend. Do you want to be on the show? Do you want to hop on the show? Do you want to hop on the show?
Dude.
Do you want to hop on? Like that guy, I mean, just the nicest, like talk about brotherhood and like what they preach. Bro, I mean, they put their money where their mouth is.
That's
and they
awesome.
help. They help people.
That is awesome.
Forever grateful, because I was a 16-year-old kid and he was booking the final stretch to the Diversity. Dude, we played a show at the VFW in like 2007. The final stretch played a show with a band called Murder, Death, Kill. It was like the craziest.
Like a traveling band or a local
traveling band?
Oh, wow.
Like pretty well known in that scene.
That's awesome.
Like, what?
Thanks
like,
to Adam.
Thanks to Adam. Like, dude, what are we doing here? And people were into it.
That's fucking sick.
Like, people, we gained followers.
Wow.
And listeners from that VTHC crowd. And it just like came out. People were like, God, man, like, love your band, reminds me of Newfound Glory. Like, I'm a huge Newfound Glory fan. Like, and it turns out like a lot of those kids were into this music and they were so receptive to it. I remember a show, Lay in Ruins and Dignan played a show together.
What? Wait. I think we were on that
You were
bill.
on it.
Yes, we got to play that. That was at Cine.
Dude, was it Far From Peril, Madur, the requested
I've got to have the flyers somewhere.
Dignan and Land Ruins?
I'm
like,
sure.
Dignan,
I'm sure
like,
I have the flyer in some external hard
oh
drive.
my God.
You're right. And Dignan was incredible.
Of course. Like, still like one of the greatest Valley bands.
Dignan
That's, oh my God.
to Lay in Ruins.
Yeah.
To the final, but was it Madur the final stretch?
Madur
Madur
yeah.
already. Far From Peril. These just kids that we were still trying to find our sound.
Oh
but
my God.
we were, I don't know, we were screamo, we were post hardcore. I don't know, dude.
Loved it. It was so much fun watching y'all back then,
And
man.
we were just having so much fun to be on the stage and get to do what we wanted to do.
Well, that's what it's about.
And people would come up to us, dude, and they'd be like, bro, you guys are 15
Yeah.
and Dexter with his super low growls and
shredding.
and then they see like, dude, because it was obviously screamo, right?
Yeah.
We really at that time, that's what we're listening to. Sense Fail, you talked about them. They got us into that Silverstein, and people would look at me and they'd say, Sam, I would never think that you'd be able to do that, or that you even did that.
Yeah. Isn't that
I'm
crazy?
like, bro, just because I play soccer and I
Yeah.
get good grades. But it's just so funny. Like, what an era, dude, honestly.
No, it is.
What an era.
It is. And
to see all of those different bands playing on the same bill.
It's so cool. And I feel like I've 100% turned into, and I've embraced it, that old overweight varsity jacket guy at the local bar, you know, drinking a Bud Light, talking about how you could have made state if I just, you know, if you hadn't missed that
the golden years.
Yeah, dude, like,
that's hilarious.
Like that field goal,
but at the same time, you are still creating to this day.
Yeah.
So in essence, you're still scoring touchdowns present day.
Wow, man.
You know?
I love that. Thank you. I don't know if I'd put it in that way, but like, that's so cool. That I think you're right. Like, actually, I'm still living those days in a way.
The reason I say that is because the writing season is still writing, is still releasing. You had your show last year, which was awesome, and it was so much fun. And so
Thank you.
You can't exactly say, I'm like that washed up quarterback who's still, talking about how he was good in the day, but he's got that gut,
Yeah.
You're still technically in the game.
Yeah. I am, man. Until I die, I tell the guys all the time, because here's the thing. If I was going to stop doing this, I would have already stopped. Like, it's that easy. Right? I've had this project for 12 years. I've been playing in bands for 18 years now. I'm nowhere near as good as I should be. Nowhere near. But I would have stopped if I didn't love it. And I tell the guys all the time, we might stop for a while because things get crazy with school and work and personal life, and we might not see each other for the next 6 months, but like the band is never going to break up. If all of you quit tomorrow, like this is still going to keep going. Like until you go to my funeral, like then you're going to be like, okay, the writing season had a really good run. Like, it was solid for this many years, but I'm never gonna stop. Like I don't see a reason to. It's what makes me happy, genuinely happy. It takes me back, and yet it's a step forward in everything. I'll never let it go. I mean, it's that simple. And I don't know, is it a Valley thing? Just necio, terco, dude, terco, like never gonna let it go. Think about like, we always talk like my dad, right? We're like real rancho, like grew up in the farm, like just hard-headed, never let it go. Like you talk about like our friends from Mexico, like those viejones, like the old man from back then, like, that's so hard-headed. Like I feel like that's I'm the culture I feel is I'm being influenced by it. Like no, I'm not gonna let it go.
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think it's a Valley thing.
Sure.
I think, and I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
But you said it's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people are doing what makes them happy. I don't think that we focus on that enough. And granted, sometimes we need to work. We need to just make ends meet. We don't have time to do things that make us happy.
Man, dude.
But it is amazing that you're able to say, I'm able to do what makes me happy because, dude, by all means, who's going to tell you no?
I don't. Wow. Nobody.
And
wow. Who's going to tell you no? On the contrary, you're going to have people supporting you and encouraging you. And don't get me wrong, this isn't possible without Eric, Gilbert, and OJ. The reason we're able to write and record, and the reason why, if you hear that the music is getting better, it's because of them, not because of me. The reason we're able to perform, we did our show at Cines 6 months ago or whatever, like, it's because of them. You have these people, man, who are like just as passionate about it, right? And help you excel and help you move forward. Like,
yeah.
and when I come visit, and like my mom will ask, like, oh, when are you practicing again? Oh, your show's coming up. Like, it's right around the corner. Like we were talking last night, and she's like, 5 more months until December, and she brings it up because she knows like that's ultimately what makes me happy. Yeah. And you're right. There's really no one or nothing stopping you outside of life commitments, right? That, yeah unfortunately, we got to take care of it, but it's possible. If I could do it, if I could go to grad school, work full time, take care of personal life matters, do the band like you can too. It doesn't really take, all you have to sacrifice is your sanity. And who needs that? Yeah. But you know, I will say, I mean, because there's times where, again, you know, my mom's like, you got to stop. You got to stop. You know, I got sick last summer.
In terms of slow it down, maybe take a break.
Yeah.
Not like stop the band, but...
No, exactly. Yeah, in terms of... it's you got to slow it down. You know, I got sick. I got like this flu. It was horrible.
I remember you telling me the story, and I'm like, bro...
Yeah.
It sounds like your body's hit that limit and says, JJ,
physically,
hasta aquí.
Physically. It wasn't COVID. It had nothing to do with those symptoms. Like, it was... my body literally gave out, man. I had just finished my first year of grad school. I was in Mexico taking care of family stuff. I was working full time. We had just finished practicing the month before. We were starting to look for a house. Like I got done. I was done. But back to what you were saying, nothing stopping you. I don't know, man. It takes grit. You gotta want it.
You gotta want it.
You gotta want it.
You talk about this being a valley thing. What I think is a valley thing is your parents telling you, don't waste your time on that. Don't be doing that. My dad used to tell me that when I used to pick up a skateboard and I'd be like, I'm just going to go skate. My dad was like, why are you wasting your time on skateboard?
I know,
you should be
right?
playing soccer or something like that. And you were seeing my skateboard here just now in the living room.
So,
I'm like, bro,
oh God.
I bought it just because I can.
Yeah.
Now, you know,
of
like
course.
the things that I wanted when I was younger and I didn't have money for.
Yeah.
I'm like, shoot, now I can do it. And I'm grateful that we can. And I think a lot of the times, parents, they mean well, but it's like, let your kids express themselves creatively however they want to do it, you know? Now you're an adult. Now nobody can tell you no. The only thing, like you said, that will hold you back would be you work full time, you have all these responsibilities.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you're still able to make it happen.
Yeah.
But dude, at the end of the day, like, it is what makes us happy. Let us do it, you know.
Man.
Blink 182. I think
God.
it was Mark Hoppus. He said in an interview, he's like, it honestly feels good to be able to tell your parents, I told you so, which is crazy, right? And it's not to say every single band is gonna make it, because they're not.
Yeah.
But if what you're doing is what makes you happy,
I know,
dude. Who are you hurting? Nobody.
I know.
By all means.
Isn't that crazy? You're right. We don't do enough of it, man. We've got to make time.
Yeah.
And I think we're just so caught up in this rat race, man, of doing things. And look, I've never really been one to compare myself to other people. I've very much always just stayed in my lane and always just kept busy. And, you know, people are like, man, like, when are you gonna like find a girlfriend? When are you gonna get married, man? Like, you gotta,
like, if you could just
have kids.
Like, if you could just, you know, go to the store and
yeah, exactly.
Well,
let me go do that this weekend, you know, and it'll be good. Like, it's like, look, like, I'm just doing my things, right? And if it happens, then it happens. I don't. For the longest time, I felt like I was doing all these things to compensate for the fact that, you know, I didn't have a girlfriend or I wasn't married, you know. And I very, very recently came to the conclusion that, no, actually, I just do a million different things because I'm just a naturally ambitious person. And it has nothing to do with, like, insecurities or anything of that nature. Actually, quite the opposite. I think the fact that I am self-aware, you know, I'm able to, like, do all these things. Yeah. Right?
I think that's good. I think that's important, because at the end of the day, it's like, whether you have somebody or not, like a significant other, a girlfriend or wife, whatever, you should still be reaching you should still try to reach your full potential.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if not, what a waste. It's a shame.
If we wouldn't. It is. It really is. And let me tell you, what's that whole thing? I'm going to totally butcher it. Like, we only use like 20% of our brains or whatever that stupid thing is.
Yeah.
Back to your potential. Dude, I don't think people are aware of their own potential. I think people are not even operating at like a 10% potential. That's a valley thing. Yeah. That is something that I've seen here, right? Like, where it's like, oh, like, we couldn't get interviews at these companies or at these banks because like we didn't go to like the Ivy Leagues and stuff like that. And it's like, no, like you can, right? And I think the biggest issue is hearing. It's not so much like being bad, dealing with rejection or hearing no. It's give me a solution, right? That's always been the thing. It's like death and taxes are the only things that there's no workaround for. So when I hear no for anything else, I'm like, no, there's more to it, right? If there's A and B, create a C and a D, right? There's solutions, there's workarounds. Like your potential, I think people just try and then just give up almost immediately, right?
That's fair.
And it's like, no, like I'm gonna read this 1,000 times and I'm gonna bang my head against the wall 10,000 times until I understand this. You know, I feel like that's one way to unlock that potential. Other people are just naturally super talented, naturally super intelligent. I'm not that person. I have to just, unfortunately, the amount of effort I have to put in is just an extraordinary amount in order to get those results, right? Some people make it seem so effortless.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that whole conversation or the idea, it's like I don't have talent, it's just an excuse.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a lot of people that that are known for, like Michael Jordan is an excellent example.
Yeah.
We talk about Michael Jordan, we know he's the greatest basketball player of all time, arguably, right?
Yeah.
No, not arguably. He is the greatest basketball player of all time. But he talks about how, he's like, people think that it's just natural talent, but they don't realize the amount of work I put in day after day after day.
He was crazy.
He talks about how his sophomore year, he didn't make the varsity team. Yeah. He was sad. He was bummed out. And after that, he just became obsessive about it.
And it was that documentary?
He talks a little bit about it in the documentary,
Okay.
The Last Dance, but there's also a commercial, I believe, and I forget what the commercial is about, but he's like, maybe you're right. Maybe I everything came easy to me, and maybe I was just naturally talented.
No way,
and then
man.
he's like, or maybe you're just making excuses.
Yeah.
That's so good.
His work ethic was
incredible.
And people like in that Last Dance, like people like didn't like working with it, like because of just the amount, just the borderline insanity, right? I feel just the amount of work that you go, the lengths that you go to be able to accomplish something like, that's what it takes. It takes work.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, I mean, we don't want to, right? We don't want to put in the work. We don't want to stay up late. We don't want to sacrifice going out. Like, we want to chill on the weekend, but also it's important to give yourself that time, right? We talked about that yesterday. I don't know if you were the one who told me, but like you have those days where it's like a Netflix and couch day, right? And you order takeout for all 3 meals and you never leave your house. And then like, God, I feel guilty because I knew that I had to study and I knew that I had a bunch of reading and I had a case study and I had like a research paper. And it might have been you who told me giving yourself a day to rest isn't a reward. Like, you got to stop thinking about it that way. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to rest.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself that day, that time, dude. It's not a reward. And I think about it that way. Resting is a reward.
Yeah, I remember us having this conversation plenty of times, but it's because we are finite beings.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you think, I can continue. No, like, you're going to get to the point where you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Or, like you had that day, that episode where you just
last summer,
your body just gave out, dude. And so they talk about like you taking care of yourself so that you can take care of the people around you.
Yeah.
it's the same thing, you know.
You've got to be in a healthy
take care
state.
of your body.
Yeah.
If you want your body to do well, and you know,
Yeah.
going to work, school, finishing what you need to finish, you have to give yourself that time to rest, man. It's so true.
It's super important, man.
And I read something the other day where it was like if you don't give your body that time to rest, your body's gonna pick that day for you, and it's gonna be on the most inconvenient day.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But isn't that how it works?
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. The day where I have a deadline at work or I had to do this is when I wake up with the scratchy throat and my sinuses.
You're like, dude, of all days,
of all
this
days, man, of all days. That's so funny. Yeah, your body's gonna pick it for you. Like that day, I got like super sick, man. I work. That's how hard I work until I get sick. You know.
Yeah, dude, you are a workaholic. I do think you are, but the good thing is that at least you have the self-awareness, and you're starting to work towards, dude. If I'm reaching my limit, there's nothing else I can do.
Oh yeah, no, there's not. You know, my mom yesterday, 2 days ago, she's like, "Ya basta, vive tu vida, live your life."
Sometimes you need that.
Stop. And I'm like, wow. Like,
good for your mom. I'm glad that she does that.
Me too, man. I'm so glad. Oh, God, so blessed to have her.
You need that, dude.
And it is, dude. Just think about, and then COVID, and then we lived through a fucking pandemic, global pandemic, and we were expected to show up to work every day and still perform. And then you know, and then I decided to go to grad school, and then we recorded 2 more songs, and we released a single like right at the end of 2020, and then we bought a house, and then like, dude, okay, like, stop. You know, you just gotta chill. Gotta do something like this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
dude, without a doubt. So they talk about research where how to increase your quality of life. Yeah. Right. And they talk about, okay, what does the average person need to be able to increase their quality of life? And number one, it's obviously you need a routine, right? Have a good job. Yeah. Something for you to be productive.
Sure.
But you also need hobbies, right?
Yeah.
To do something for your soul. Yes, you need to make money. Okay. Yeah. But also, what are you doing for your soul? Like, what lights you up? What fills you when you're not at work?
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're not, then your life is work, eat, and sleep.
Yeah.
Hell no.
No, dude.
And again, I come back to this point where it's like, dude, some people tienen que jalar, like they have no other option, where it's like right now I have my kids to feed and my wife, and I got to pay the mortgage. And sometimes there are times when, dude, you just got to work. But in order to be able to increase your quality of life, once you're in a position where I can say, all right, I've have the time to work and I have the time to myself.
Yeah.
Doing something that like you said, that makes you happy, that is filling your soul, dude, that's how you increase your quality of life. And of course, you need to know when to rest.
Yeah.
Right. So they talk about, like, of course, taking care of your body, your mind, and your soul. Like, all of these things are so important.
Yeah.
In order for you to be able to increase your quality of life.
I know.
Because, dude, how many people do we know that they're just work and they come home and then watch Netflix, and no judgment? That was me for a long period of time. It's like you're just watching Netflix and then do it all again the next day.
Yeah.
It's soul crushing sometimes, man. And when I was working in Austin, being in traffic for about an hour 20.
Oh, dude, there's studies. There's legitimate
it is soul crushing
studies about commuting. Like, and this wasn't like a COVID thing because now we're working from home. No, dude, these were articles from like forever ago about commuting, increasing stress, and how that, you know, and how how commuting like affects your overall well-being. And I'm so glad, that's so interesting you bring up, like, you forget you're sitting for over an hour in traffic. Like, that's not, oh God, that's miserable.
I think the very first time that I started falling into a depression and not realizing that it was depression at the time was I was living in Kyle.
Yeah.
Working in like the Westlake area of Austin.
Oh gosh.
And so it was maybe like an hour 20 commute in the morning.
Jesus.
Taking 360. It just sucked. I would come home at the end of the day, another hour 15, another 20.
Fried.
And have dinner. And when you finally get to sit on the couch and just relax, your day is pretty much over.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm like,
it's 9
dude,
o'clock.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'd love to see, like, go out and see a friend or something, or do something for myself, but I just don't even have the energy to do that. And so doing that every day, day in and day out, dude, for sure will lead you into depression.
And you know what's crazy is that before you even know it, that's functional depressing, man.
Yeah. I would get to the point
That's
where
functional.
I was like, I don't even want to go to sleep because I don't want it to be the next day, because I don't want to do this all over again.
I know.
There's a term for that. I forget what it is, but people will literally just stay up to have more time to themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, if I go to bed, the quicker I go to bed, the quicker it's tomorrow, and then I'm just gonna be in this vicious cycle.
That loop, man. It's been, you know what, and it's so cool being hybrid at work, because go in when needed, you know, and I'm able to come down to the valley, and work, you know, for 5 days here,
which is awesome.
And go to Fort Worth, you know, see my sister, or go to Austin. I could literally be anywhere in the world, right? And work for those like 5 days.
And some days life happens and you're like, dude, I need to take my car to the shop, or
I know.
Or I need to,
my gosh, man.
I need to, renew my registration or something like that, which is like, dude, those places are only open 8 to 5.
I know.
And you're at work 8 to 5.
Dude, it is that the pandemic, that was like the fucking solution to groceries, laundry, car, errands. Like, because think about, I mean, when you're every job is different, right? But like, we're working on something, we're working on like a presentation, and I'm doing my parts, I do my research, turn it over, you know, to a manager, and it's like, okay, give me a couple hours to review this, I'll get back to you with edits. Okay. There's literally nothing to do for those 2 hours. I mean, you would just sit there, right? I mean, this is pretty commonplace in the office, right? Like, you're waiting on comments, okay, once you get back, and then you might have a shit ton of comments, and you're there for like the rest of the afternoon and possibly into the evening. But point is, it's like, okay, what do you do in that in between downtime? Let me go to HEV. Let me start doing laundry. Let me clean my apartment. It's a mess. I've got like 7 pairs of shoes all over my living room. Like, I don't even know how that happened. So yeah, I mean, how do you go do literally anything when you're at work from 8 to 5?
Yeah. My respects to the people that work in an area where you can't get away, right?
Man.
Like food service industry, or,
So
even
tough.
things like retail, where it's like, I got to be here.
Yeah. It's
And
so tough. You've got to be present. Mm-hmm. You have to be present at all times and on your feet.
Exactly.
And on your feet. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, I have friends that are in retail, and they're just like, dude, I'm so physically tired. And we always joke, because they're like, how the fuck are you tired? Like, you're in front of a computer in Excel, you know, like all day. Like, and I'm like, mentally.
Yeah, but it's always like
Math,
the grass
bro.
is always greener, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you have it easy, but then you never really know what the
I
other
know,
person is dealing
man.
with, I mean,
It's tough.
yeah, it's tough. Dude, that's crazy. I do want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned, okay, you graduated from here, UTPA,
Yes.
which is awesome, which,
Yes.
I want people to understand the scope of the things that you do, and how you started here in the Valley.
Yeah.
Right. So you majored in what? Finance here at UTPA.
I got
which is now UTRGV.
Yeah, man. I got a bachelor's in finance. By the time I graduated in 2012, I was ready to leave. I had lived here my whole life. Mind you, I chose to stay here for college. I did not want to leave for college, right? Mom, super supportive. Dad, somewhat disappointed. You know, my sister left for college. Both of my sisters left for college. Like, he's kind of like, you're going to miss out on that, like, part of your life. And I feel like, in a way, that I did. I did sacrifice that college experience, whatever that means. But, dude, I played in Madur when I was an undergrad, man. And I was traveling, and we were recording, and that was my undergrad. My undergrad wasn't a frat, and football games.
Which frats are highly overrated.
You know, exactly. Like, so when I tell my story to people in interviews and colleagues and stuff, it's like, well, I grew up playing in punk rock bands in VFW halls on the border, dude. Like, that was my college, you know? So by the time I graduated, I was ready. I severely underestimated how competitive this was going to be. And I got a job here at a local bank. I was here for a year. While I was here, it went under. It got acquired by another bank. And obviously I saw the writing on the wall. The year was coming up. You know, they always say, like, give it a year. That's sort of like your sort of timeline for any new job. I was like super miserable, man. I was like, I hate this job. This isn't what I wanted. Like, why am I still in the valley? Like, I'm such a loser. And like, mind you, I was like recording an EP. We had shows lined up. I saw my friends every weekend. Both my parents were healthy. Dad was still alive. I had zero things to complain about but the job. And I needed the job to somehow validate me because you just finished undergrad. That is what you're supposed to do, and get a badass job, whatever the fuck that means. Right?
Yeah.
And that's your world. Like, you don't see beyond, I just got my bachelor's, like, now I go get a job, right? So
some people won't even tell you badass job. They just say, just get a job.
Just get a job, man.
Whichever one. I'm like, damn, bro.
Make sure it has benefits, bro. You know, fix those teeth, you know? And I stopped applying to jobs in New York, Chicago, and San Francisco because I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, let me keep it in Texas. So I started applying to jobs: San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Houston. Got an interview with a massive bank. They're based out of California, big operations throughout Texas. And like their international banking group in Dallas. And I was like, this is it. I made it. This is awesome. I'm going to crush it. This is going to be phenomenal. Super intense interview process. Like, they flew me out. I flew out from Harlingen for dinner. You know, had dinner at this place like in downtown Dallas. And then the next day I had 6 rounds of interviews with all these different managers. And
it sounds exhausting.
It was very exhausting. Some were like very technical, like asking accounting and finance questions. Others were, you could tell they were just sort of feeling me out. Others were very much like by the book, like, you know, they had the HR, like, you know, thing they have to ask you. So went through that whole process. I came back, and manager calls, and he's like, look, wanted to let you know, we thought you were a phenomenal candidate. We're not going to move forward. And he's like, I'm going to send your resume to our Houston office because I think you're going to be a really great fit, like, for this company. And like, we really did like you, right? And in my head, I'm like, dude, this guy's like blowing smoke on my ass. I'm like, yeah, fucking whatever, dude. Thanks. I hang up, and I'm like, that was really cool. He personally called, because I don't know how many rejection emails you've gotten from jobs that are just automated. And it's like the shittiest thing.
You're lucky if you get one of those.
And now that you don't even get that. So in retrospect, and I'm talking now like 10 years later, like, wow, like, now that I've been through this whole like thing, it's like, that says a lot about his character, the people that work there. I was like, I highly respect that. So I end up seeing an opening in Houston, same company, different department, and this is for their oil and gas financing group. And I'm like, the application was gonna close in like 2 days. So like I apply, and it said if I knew anyone that worked at the company. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put the manager's name who interviewed me in Dallas. And I gave him the courtesy of letting him know. After I applied, I was like, hey, by the way, I put your name down when I applied for this job. And he just replied, good luck. And I was like, okay. They flew me out. We had a show at Fallback Records that night.
I remember that.
That night, we were releasing the EP I was just telling you about. It was the Lost at Home EP. I flew out to Houston. 5 rounds of interviews. There were 12 candidates total, all from A&M, SMU, UT, Tulane. And I just felt like super intimidated, right? I went to Pan Am, and, they just asked in my interviews, like, oh, like, tell me about yourself. And I'm like, well, I was raised in Mexico and I crossed the border every day to go to school, and just their heads would explode the minute I said that. And, I went to this school. I chose to go to that school, and I became very interested in finance because when I started college, it was at the height of the financial crisis in 2008. It was an election year. It was the first year I could vote. Wall Street was like being decimated. The world economy was blowing up. I just became fascinated with what was happening. And they're like, oh, I have a section of a music section in my resume. And they're like, what? They're like, oh, you like playing a band? And I'm like, yeah. So, my friends and I, like, we get together. We write original music. We, publish it. It's all on Spotify, iTunes. Like, we play gigs. Like, I've played gigs in Lubbock, and I've played gigs in Dallas and Houston. And we'd go out of town and play a gig. And then sometimes when we would come back, they would drop me off in class, like at class, and I was working part-time at a hotel. And like, I just like, now that I'm thinking about it, I never actually thought about it until you're asking, or until we're talking about it. Like, I could just only imagine what was going through their head as I'm telling them this. Like, I end up getting the job. I'm the only person that got hired out of that crew of people that were there. They called me that Monday. I remember very vividly, I was eating lunch at, what's that amazing sandwich place on Dove?
New York Deli?
Oh, my God. Oh, so we should go there after this.
Down.
We should go there after this. I was having lunch there when they called and offered me the job.
That's such a good call to get.
Oh my God, dude, I'm never going to forget.
Hey, we just want to let you know you got the gig.
Got the offer.
It's such a good
We're going to send the offer letter over.
That's awesome.
And it was like just a stupid number, And I remember, quick story, obviously I moved right after and put the band on pause. And I remember like coming back to visit. I would come like maybe like every few months or whatever, but I remember going to New York Deli, and the owner, he's always working the register. It's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I moved to Houston. Like, I got my dream job. Like, I was like, actually, they called me to make me the offer when I was eating lunch here when they called to make me the offer. And he's like, lunch is on me today.
Dude,
or whatever. I was like, oh my God, man. Like,
that's awesome.
Oh, God, so amazing, dude. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, but yeah, so that was life-changing. We would go every 6 months to San Francisco for training with this company. And it's super cool because everybody that you start with is in the same position as you are. Fresh graduates or had just been working for like a year or two. Nobody really knows like what the fuck they're doing. They send us out to California. And I remember one of the times we went out, we rented a party bus to Napa Valley. And
we get some wine.
Yeah, man. And I remember San Francisco, by the way, is like awesome. It's super cool. I don't know if I'd ever lived there. I think it would have been cool to like do an internship there.
Yeah.
For a semester or a summer. The weather is absolutely just perfect. January to December, the weather is perfect.
I would even say it's a little too cold for me.
Well, it's too cold. What's the saying? The coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I was at what's the
marina?
The park where they filmed where the painted ladies are at in the Full House show.
Oh,
that
dude.
Park,
I don't know. I'm not.
I forget the name of the park, but I was there one morning, and the sun is out, beautiful day, but the breeze just makes it feel cold.
It is.
And
it's
this
brutal.
was in the summer, like July or something.
You need a
like
jacket,
that, dude.
You need a
jacket.
jacket.
It was incredible.
Weather was perfect. Everyone was vibing. We're like, just drinking on our way to Napa, the beach. And this was in 2014. That was the first time I learned and I realized how to soak it in.
Oh, that's awesome.
How to be like, this is like never gonna happen again. Let me like soak it in. Like let me
live in the
truly
moment.
Enjoy. Like I'm never gonna forget this, right? Because like I wish I could have done that more in high school, and I wish I could have done that more in college. So now every time a moment like that happens, I'm like, let me soak it in, man. This is so fucking cool. Like, from the Valley, and I'm doing this. So I was with that company for almost 5 years. Got promoted, got raises consistently, met my bonus targets every year, met just the most amazing people. Man, I just graduated from Rice in May, and
congratulations, by the way, for the 10th time. This is incredible.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. And my party, I invited like half the world, and we took a picture of I invited my friends from that first company I worked at. And there was like 17 of us.
Dude, that's a huge group.
And I met these people in 2014.
Wow.
And it's just super tight-knit people, like just amazing human beings, man. Just forever grateful I met these people. One of my best friends from that company asked me to officiate her wedding.
That's right.
Just recently, I had played the role of a priest, So I'm telling you, man, just so many good things came out of that. And I have no regrets from working that 9 to 5, that cubicle, that grind. Like, I learned a ton. I grew. I met amazing people. I had such a supportive, I was there when my dad got sick. I remember, one of my old managers, not even my current one, came up to my cubicle and he was like, listen, my mother, passed away of cancer. He's like, I've had liver cancer. And he was like, this and that. And he was like, don't let any of these people tell you, you can't take time off or you can't work from home, and he was like, if you need me to speak to so-and-so, who's the head of the group, he's like, I can go speak to him right now. If you want to go home for a few weeks, every month or whatever you need.
Who was that told you?
One of my previous managers at that same company. So sorry, let me sort of clarify. I was rotating at the beginning because it was an analyst program.
Gotcha.
Right. So you rotate through different departments. So I get very close to the people I work with, and he's one of the people that I don't want to say super close, but we had an awesome relationship.
He sounds like a solid manager.
Dude, he is. When I left, this company, he personally came up, man, to my cube and to say goodbye, like gave me a hug. You know, I'm like, God, yeah.
For someone to support you and vouch for you in that way,
God,
that says a lot about that person.
It's amazing,
and
man.
I don't
just
think we see enough of that.
No, we don't. No, we don't. And it's not completely gone or lost. Okay.
Agreed.
You know, just because we work at a corporation, it doesn't mean that everybody in here is evil. Like, we're people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and this manager's just so phenomenal. Another one who was like basically sort of the co-head of the group, total like, he studied like journalism because he wanted to write for Rolling Stone, loved music, was always asking me about the band, always wanted to hear what we were doing. Like, he came to say goodbye to me personally too when I left, and I'll never forget this. I mean, we're talking a 60-something-year-old oil and gas finance corporate executive saying, don't ever stop playing music. He's like, I congratulate you that you're going to go off to this other company and you're going to learn this different side of finance. He's like, don't stop growing musically either. And then he just like starts going off on like, you know, in order to like, and some people will be against this, but he's like, you know, in order to like create art, you must be in pain. And I know you've been in pain. And I'm just like, dude, I like want to cry. Like, I'm just like, Jesus, man, just another deep. Fucking phenomenal human being, you know? And everybody pretty much was like, don't stop playing, don't stop playing, don't stop playing. Like, don't let this career just absorb you, you know? And I never let it.
That's awesome.
You know?
It sounds like you had some good people around you,
yeah.
which is great.
No, of course.
One of the things that I love about the story is you, the one person from the Valley who graduated from UT Pan American, which is, you know, now UT RGV, got the job when there was other candidates from these incredible universities. You mentioned A&M, Tulane, I mean SMU. These are UT. Excellent institutions. UT Austin, excellent institutions. But what I want to point out is that somebody from UT Pan American still can fight and be in the ring with people from these universities.
100%.
I love it. I love it so much because you know, we go back to, you talked about this mentality that maybe we're a little bit shy of, or not necessarily shy, but we're hesitant to reach our full potential, or to kind of battle through those no's.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, dude, somebody from here, from the Valley, graduated from UTPA, ended up getting that gig, and you have these amazing stories to talk about.
No, man. Oh, thank you. And I just, you know, it's kind of hard, and I don't want to say it's like that chip on my shoulder, right? I hate that. But we're a product of our environment, right? So that's kind of always hanging over my head. And a degree from Rice isn't going to change that. A title at work, a salary, a bonus, like, I'm still a Valley kid.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not doing all these things to try and like, it's not like, I'm not doing that to like erase that or be, you know, it's like, no, I'm doing these things because I genuinely want to, and I always want to be the best version of myself that I can, right? And I think that now that I've gotten a good handle on the professional stuff and the music stuff, it's like, well, now I got to work on myself, right? And personally, and how I can be a better friend, you know, how I can be a better like partner, you know, or potential like partner, because we can't forget that either, you know. That's something I'm incredibly self-aware of. Like, I need to be better at that, right? I'm not the best friend always, or son even. So that's important too.
Yeah, and that's a lifelong thing too.
Yeah, like, that is, man.
You don't get to a point where like, I'm good, I'm done, I'm perfect.
It's not like, the 2 years in grad school and you got it. Like, no, dude, this is gonna be a perpetual thing. Yeah, man.
But dude, I love that. I think, it needs to be noted, right? That, like you said, you're a product of your environment. And here in the Valley, maybe we're not as exposed as people in Austin or Houston, Dallas, and some of these bigger cities.
Yeah.
But we can still make shit happen.
Absolutely.
And we are making shit happen.
Of course, dude. I don't, now I just I never let that get to me. Before I did. And it was super intimidating. And I didn't have I'm not like a 4.0 GPA person. I'm not like the perfect resume. If anything, they look at it and they're like, what the fuck is this? This guy's a musician and he went to school in the Valley and he worked at all these companies. If anything, it's just all over the place, right? Because that's just me. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And, maybe the people on the other side of the table interviewing me are like, well, I think it would be great to work with this person, or, but I feel like it definitely, a lot of the Valley upbringing comes out in the most positive ways,
Yeah, and rightfully so, dude. It's so nice to be able to embrace that. And because you talk about how when you finished undergrad, you were ready to leave. I didn't do my undergrad here. I left, right? I went to Texas
you were
State.
smart, man.
I went to San Marcos. But I was at a point where when I hit 18, I was like, I didn't dislike the Valley. But I was just eager to branch out,
For sure.
And I think I always tell people, if you want to leave, if you want to go and explore and learn about what's out there,
you have to
be exposed to different things. Absolutely. But ultimately, those experiences helped me to come back and appreciate what we have here.
Oh, 100%. You know what? That's so funny you bring that up. I don't think I've ever, and it just happened naturally. It wasn't even on purpose. I don't think I've ever fought so hard or been such a big proponent for the Valley until I left. It's so crazy. And now I catch my friends out there saying, oh man, I want to go visit. Or dude, I want to go. I want to go to McAllen. I want to go to the Valley. And these are people who grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Who are not even
dude, there's something down there in
South
Texas.
Exactly. They're dude, it's so intriguing. You're always talking about it. You're always down there. I want to go, man. I want to see what it's like. And I'm you're more than welcome, of course. To your point, you it's not like you hated it. You were just ready to, you were at that stage in your life. See, I wasn't ready at 18 to leave. And now, we're here and it's dude, now I'm ready to come back, at any given point. Yet I've been gone for 8.5 years. Dude. That's a lifetime. So
that's awesome. And if you do come back, you've already done so much in such a short amount of time that you're if you want to come to a place where the pace of life is a little bit slower,
man,
that would be so nice.
I know. I know.
So
there's nothing wrong with it either. I feel perfectly fine. I feel so fulfilled with everyone and everything. I'm just, I'd be ready. It's not a big deal. The issue is in terms of industry, right? The jobs that I've had and currently have, they don't exist here.
Right.
They literally do not.
And there are
exist.
some industries that you won't find necessarily here just because there's not that market for it. But you'd still be able to find work.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
What is your vision? You and I have talked about a little bit about this, but what is your vision in terms of what do you see for yourself in the next couple of years? What are the goals that you've set for yourself that you want to reach?
So
or you want to meet?
Right now, like, I think the thing right now is I do, as boring as it sounds, I do want to be able to reach a position of seniority in a company, in finance, working my way towards it. I want to do that not forever, depending on life happening, right? Because you never know what's going to happen or where it's going to take you. Once I'm able to do that for some time, I want to basically semi-retire down here and teach undergrad finance at UT-RGV.
Where it all started.
Where it all started, man. And it's full circle. And ultimately leverage this insane network that I've built for, let's say, by that point, 20 years. Be like, look, I know people at this company, this bank, this firm, this, that. Oh, yeah, CFO for that company, buddy of mine that I went to Rice with. Oh, yeah, whatever at this company, we started together as analysts at, whatever company. Be able to leverage all those relationships, sort of build a pipeline of students down here that we can, interview, get internships. The company that I was with previously, while I was in grad school, I was actually able to get them to post jobs at UT-RGV.
Oh wow!
Like
I
the
love
business
it.
school.
That's
Several.
Awesome.
It's a couple internships,
Yes.
couple full-time jobs.
Yes.
I fought hard. I fought hard for that, and I had been there with the company for 4 years already. So I mean, I had the credibility, and I had been performing, and I was like, hey, you should really check out, this school. There's a lot of talent. There's untapped potential, man. And if you don't get out there, and if you don't do it, then you're always thinking, well, I can only go 10% at any given point. This is it. I can only go 10%, and you box yourself in. And it's like, no, man, you could literally do anything, and that's the goal. And then that's the way that I want to go out, and I realize, like, that's not very ambitious, or people might view it as not ambitious in my industry to be like, you want to teach? Like, I'm like, yeah, for sure. I want to come back, and I want to help prepare these students for the real world. This is hopefully by then a 20-year, finance professional, and go out that way.
And nobody has to understand it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, great point. Nobody has to. Yeah, I don't owe that explanation to anyone.
It's
and
it's a noble thing.
For
it's
sure.
a noble thing, and I think that you'd have a chance to invest in the community where you started out.
Of course, man.
And that's only gonna better the
invest in
community.
people.
Exactly.
That is one. I mean, yeah, invest in people, man.
I don't think the right term would be that it's not ambitious, but it's the right thing to do.
Hell yeah, dude.
And it's also what you want to do.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
again,
more important.
Your journey,
yeah.
right?
Not
so,
theirs.
You get to a point where, like, hey, making more money is not going to make that much of a difference.
It's not. It's not. It's been. Did we talk about this?
We probably did.
Like,
I'm pretty sure we did.
Scientifically proven that after like
60K.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like
your quality of life really doesn't change that much after that.
Well, to your point, being like when I was an undergrad, being a broke ass college student, I was so happy. I was so happy. I was not a dollar to my name. And I was
that's so interesting.
And I didn't know it. I didn't know that I was happy.
It's a different
That's
dynamic.
The most depressing
It's
part.
definitely a different dynamic. And it's not to say that having money can't help you do great things.
Sure.
Because you can help a lot.
Sure.
And of course, not having a debt, that's amazing.
I know.
Right?
I know.
But for the whole point of once you get past a certain point in terms of your salary, dude, like
it's not,
what difference is it gonna make?
None.
You'll have more in your bank account. Okay, cool. You're gonna die one day. You're gonna take it with you.
That's the thing. That's the thing, dude. Yeah, you cannot take any of that with you, man. You know, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what really mattered? I read this post that this guy is like a, you know, successful or whatever, and like his grandfather or grandmother had passed away, and she, you know, like Harvard undergrad, like Princeton grad school, PhD, this and all this research, and made just like she was apparently just this absolute like rock star in like the legal world and research. And he made a post about her passing away and then saying not a single person talked about her resume.
Wow. I mean, that's so true, dude.
Like, damn. That's so true. It is not gonna matter. Like, they're not gonna be like, man, that sucks that guy died. He went to Rice. You know, like, nobody's gonna give a shit. Like, you know, they're not gonna care where I worked or like where I went to school. Like,
yeah, or he made X amount of money, dude, you know.
So
that's not what's gonna matter long term, dude. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I hope that happens. I honestly hope that happens. Man. That you end up getting to the point where, oh yeah, dude, check rate my professor, fucking
JJ's on there, is the biggest asshole I've ever met. You know, and by that point, the writing season is gonna be a '90s cover band. And we're gonna be playing quinceañeras and birthdays, and we're gonna be playing at the Flying Walrus every Saturday. At that point, it'll just be like a cover band. Like, I'm gonna be like 52 years old teaching finance, and I'd be like, hey, by the way, guys, my band is playing at, you know.
You're gonna be that professor that's like talking about when you would play shows here locally. Tell us about that time that you played the VFW.
Yeah, you know? And I'm like, what? I'm like, first of all, what the fuck do you know about punk rock music, kid? You don't know shit about punk rock. Yeah. I am punk rock, motherfucker.
That's gonna be a comment on Rate My Professor. You better know your punk rock shit. Yeah. That's hilarious, dude.
Oh God.
Dude, I think that this is a good place to stop. We've covered so much good stuff.
Yeah, we did. We covered stuff I didn't think we were.
Yeah. and I still feel like there's more that we can unpack. But shoot, we can always have you on again.
I'd be honored, man.
I would love that.
I'd be honored.
I would love that.
Thank you.
So, you know, we can certainly have you on again and talk more about new stuff that the writing season is going to release and whatnot. But
we're planning to record in a couple months, so
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude.
That's
Thanks
awesome.
Again.
Well, thank you so much for being here, man. I'm always happy to get to hang out with you.
Same.
16 years going strong.
16 years, man.
That's awesome.
God, so happy. I'm so proud of you, dude.
Thank you, dude. I'm having fun.
Me too.
I really am.
Awesome. Good.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to We're From the Valley. JJ, thanks again for being here. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. Take care.